With us tonight is Roger Blevins. This is his second trip here. Roger, good to see you again. Is regarded as one of the best steel players in the country and was a staff musician for KWTO, the Jubilee home radio station. We also have Mike McGee with us from beginning in 1974 with his first introduction to pedal steel. Within 1 year, 1975, he was working in a band and backed up folks like Johnny Russell, Mel Street, Jerry Wallace, Nat Stuckey, Bob Luman, Bob Diekmeyer's here, and he's the owner and operator of a GFI steel guitar factory in Marshfield, Missouri. He began working for Gene Fields in 1992 and learned every aspect of producing GFI pedal steel guitars. Bob took over the business after Gene passed away. Gene Fields learned from the ground up, co-designing for Leo Fender, building bass and steel guitars. Please welcome our guest tonight, please.
Thank you very much.
Switch, maybe.
Pedal steel guitars have a lot of switches, don't they, Roger? You got to turn them on. I'm Mike McGee. I'm very humbled to be here. I want to thank the Music Monday folks for having me. I appreciate it very much. And it's an honor and a pleasure to be here and to be sitting with these two fine gentlemen. So my thanks to you all for coming out this evening. Bob?
I echo that sentiment. Yes.
Yeah, it's good to be here and see so many old faces and new teeth. That's Tony Smith said that. But I'm glad you all came out, and steel guitar has kindly taken a beating here lately, so we're glad to see some support for it. And it's not going to die; it's going to stay on, but we need all the support we can get for it anymore in country music. And I was playing country music before they started busting guitars on stage, so that's how long I've...
How'd you get started? Well, probably one of the most important things in the world is communication, and somehow I think I miscommunicated a little bit of the dating on the things that were read a while ago. I started trying to learn how to play a six-string guitar when I was 10, and at 14 age 14 I got a six-string lap steel, and didn't get my first pedal steel till 1971. And then this 1974 date is I was asked to be on my first recording session, and they actually paid me money for it. I hope I was in tune, because I didn't know how important that was at that point in time. I was just trying to be on the right fret. Graduated from college in 75 from the University of Missouri, came back home, and we immediately, there was a trio, kind of a three amigo thing there in my little hometown of Dadeville, Missouri. And some of you may know Max King. He's up here in Springfield every Sunday night playing with Travis Scott over at the American Legion what's the road that's on? Plainview Eagles. So yeah, Eagles. So he and I grew up together, and then another person who's a distant cousin of mine, his name's Dan McMaster. So we grew up trying to teach each other how to play guitar. And Dan's in Branson, been in Branson for years, and I guess played every show down there in all these years. So that's kind of how we got started. In 75, when I got back from college, we were trying to work once a week on Saturday nights, and a guy hired us to come to Springfield. And that's how the three of us made it to Springfield in 75 with some other people in our first true professional band. And as the reader talked about, was blessed to back up a lot of people that ended up being pretty famous in the music business. And it went on from there. Played in Branson for 7 years. I kind of joke and say I served 7 years and got my parole and left. And I've just worked freelance ever since. I've had my own recording studio since 1989. Been busy in it for years and years, still busy there. And our family lives on the family farm, and we still raise cattle on the family farm. So,
Well, what about you, Roger?
Well, I can tell the same old story I told before. I'm from Nixa, still live there. I grew up in Highlandville, and my mom had an old guitar, and I heard a steel guitar on the radio, and I liked the sound of that. I told my mom, I said, I'd like to play one of them. I like that. So I had somebody tune that guitar up 6-string, like a 6-string steel, you know. And I had a pocket knife, and that was my bar, and so I just started to taught myself to play. But I got awful lucky. I finally learned to play, and Bob Mabe of the Ball Knobbers, I grew up with the Mabe boys down in Highlandville, and started the Ball Knobbers show. And I finally went to work for them several years ago. I worked 33 years there. And but before that, I was playing on the Jubilee one time, and they used to book guests in on the Jubilee from all different shows.
Yeah.
And had a guy named Dusty Owens from WWVA on the radio station WWVA West Virginia, Wheeling. And I was playing that night, and he offered me a job to go to Wheeling. And I thought, well, why not? So here I go, you know, didn't know a soul, only met him one time. And so we got in, he told me to take a bus, and I took a bus and went and checked in the hotel there in Wheeling. I got in about 3 o'clock in the morning. He called about 6:30 and said, you made it? And I said, yeah. He said, well, we're going to leave at 7:30. I said, we're going to leave? And he said, yeah, we got to go to Watertown, New York for a show. I didn't know anybody in the band, but I was lucky. One of the finest fiddle players I think ever was Buddy Spiker. And he was the fiddle player with Dusty. So it was really a pleasure. And we worked a lot. We rode all the time, worked all over Canada, and went to Newfoundland for a month, and did a lot of package shows with Grand Ole Opry groups, you know. And so, and I came back. Dusty decided he was going to retire and become a minister, Church of Christ minister, and so he went to seminary school in Florida. So I said, well, and I don't know what I'm going to do. So Jim Kendrick, who was an announcer on KWTO radio here in Springfield, was a good friend of mine. I talked to him. I said, if ever an opening in Springfield, let me know, KWTO. And so he called me and he said, hey, they're going to need a steel player. I said, fine, put my name in the pot. So it so happened I worked the last show with Dusty in Buffalo, New York. I left and come back home and went to work the next Monday at KWTO. Wow. And it just worked out good. But
what got you into the steel guitar, though? I mean, what was the facet? I mean,
I just liked the sound of it. It was different, you know. And it's hard to explain, but I just liked the sound of it and the different things you could do with it. You know, there's so many things you can. It's an instrument that'll never be mastered completely. I'll put it that way. But I think so. That's my opinion. But every time you sit down behind it, you'll learn something. It may not be a lot, but it'll be some little shortcut or something that you've been looking for a while, you know. And it's so much fun.
And there's different types, right? I mean,
yes,
there's
yes.
6-string, there's 10.
Yes, yeah. Everybody's got. There's so many different tunings you can use, and so many different pedal setups. And when I first started, it was six-string lap steel.
Right.
Of course, everybody now, you got 8 and 10 floor pedals and 7, 8, 10 knee levers and 10 strings on each neck. So
Maybe somebody like that.
Is that Mike's deal?
I make him work when he builds it.
Well, Mike, what got you into it?
Well, I got to back up because I was born in '53 and in '63 something got me all excited about music, and they were 4 guys from England called the Beatles. So they didn't use steel guitar. So that's not what got me into music. So I was a rock and roll baby, and I noticed. he was one of the guys that forced me to do things I didn't want to do. I also noticed the girls seemed to enjoy what the Beatles were doing too, so that seemed like a pretty nice.
that was a plus.
Yeah, that was a plus. Yeah. So, in the midst of me trying to learn all the rock and roll of the day, I was so blessed to have a mentor come along, and I mentioned my 2 amigo buddies, the 3 amigos. My distant cousin, his father took us under his wing and started teaching us gently and showing us gently there was such a thing as country music. And we kind of snarled our noses because we were teenagers and we knew more than anyone else, and we were smarter than anybody else, and they weren't the Beatles, and they played weird stuff. And a while ago we were talking about Bob Wills, and he started introducing us to people like Bob Wills and Gene Autry and old Carl Smith, on, and along comes a guy by the name of Ray Price that he introduced me to. And Bob Wills, to his credit, promoted steel guitar incredibly. He never played without a steel guitar player.
Right.
I had already been given, by my grandma, I'd been given a 6-string lap steel, and I gave up on it. And the reason I gave up on it was country radio in 66, 67, 68 was featuring some of the finest pedal steel that's ever been recorded. It's like a golden age of pedal steel country music. So I want to be careful that I communicate this correctly. My ear was hearing that instrument. Roger said, well, I liked what I heard. I didn't really like what I heard on the Bob Wills records. I didn't do much to me, and they weren't using pedals. I didn't know that, but it didn't do much to me. Then they added pedals to bend the strings, which I didn't know about. And I started hearing things on the radio I got like Roger. I like that sound. I don't know what that sound is, but I like it. And I would go sit on my lap steel, and after about a year, I said, I must be so stupid that I can't even figure this out because I can't make it sound like what I'm hearing on the record. Now, I'm an Ozarks hillbilly, and I'm as naive as they are at age 15. And my mentor had to pull me over to the side one day and say, now, Mike, how come you're not playing steel anymore? And I tried to explain all this to him, and he said, well, now, you do know they're playing pedal steel guitars, right? I said, what's that? And it kind of got him. And he looked across the room and he said, well, you know my Stratocaster, my Fender Stratocaster over there? Yeah. Well, you know the whammy bar on it, don't you? Yeah. You know what that does, right? Yeah, it raises and lowers the pitch of the strings. And he said, well, they have steel guitars with sort of like whammy bars, but you can tune it so that it'll go to an exact pitch. It'll move directly from one note to another, and it might raise one note, one string, and it might lower another. And I finally went, oh, I guess that's why my sixth string doesn't sound like theirs then. So it took this old country boy a while to figure out which direction I wanted to go. But when I heard the strings bending, I joined in with Roger and said, that's a sound I want to pursue. That's what I like. That's where I want to go.
Well, Bob, tell us about how you got involved with the steel guitars. And you don't play, do you?
I actually do not play steel guitar. When I was playing music, I played bass in bands. The company we have is GFI, pedal steel guitars, and the GF stands for Gene Fields, who worked for Fender for a lot of years, designing stuff for them, various guitars and pedal steel guitars, and was in their research and development department for a long time. He branched out after he left that company and worked for a company called Sierra Guitars for a little while out in the Pacific Northwest, I think in Oregon, and was building regular six-string electric guitars for a short time there. That enterprise ended, and he got a job with MCI, which was a pedal steel guitar company in Arlington, Texas back then. This would have been in the early 80s, I think. And was general manager for them for quite a while. That company went under, and he decided he was going to start his own pedal steel company. Started very small. He was working at a little tiny building he built out in his backyard, and had his garage full of machines, and was just doing what he could by himself pretty much. I ended up dating his daughter, and he needed a little help in the shop once in a while, so I came over and would start, doing a little bit. I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about machining or even pedal steels, really. So I would help him out, and he would show me what to do. I'd break a little drill, but oh man, I'm really sorry. And he said, oh, it's all right, So just kept learning more and more, and I just kept working for him. And I was playing in bands at the time, kind of going back and forth, and he was great about that. I'd work during the day and leave to go play and come back. So just kept at it for years and years, and the little business he started there just kept growing and growing, and it's just kind of, I'd say we're one of the biggest.
So you're a musician?
Yeah, a musician, but not a pedal steel player.
What do you play?
Bass when I was playing. I've been so busy keeping up with the building, I really haven't played for quite a few years, actually. So he passed away, I don't know, about 10 years or so ago, and yeah, I've been taking over and working on the building of that by myself ever since.
Well, I see on the net at GFI, you guys are top dog. I mean, you're up there pretty high with the whole thing.
Yeah, we've done pretty well over the years. I mean, it grew very slowly. We got some really excellent players to play our guitar over the years. Ralph Mooney was almost really a neighbor when we lived in Texas. Ralph Mooney was a pedal steel guitar pioneer. But he was kind of neighbors over in Texas there, and Gene and Ralph became really good friends, and that helped, and got some other really excellent players, including Mike now. And yeah, it's just really grown, and I keep wondering, just is the bottom going to fall out here one of these days? But it keeps hanging on, and people keep wanting to buy them. So
well, there seems to be another revival going on with the younger. They're kind of discovering it and going, whoa.
I think so. It's branching out, not so much it's still in country music, but it's branching out into, I guess you could call, like an Americana rock kind of a genre, where you get that kind of a pedal steel sound, but not necessarily really a featured instrument so much.
I joined the Folk Alliance, and they're big in this now. A lot of these folky three-piece groups, Americana, they're bringing that steel, but they're doing. I played with a guy, Dave Crucell, who had the first computer synthesizer with a steel guitar, and he made and I'm starting to see some of that now.
Well, we had one of our guitars was on Taylor Swift's tour, so it wasn't played every song, but it was out there, yeah. So it's getting into a lot of different areas than it has been in the past, and that's great.
Well, the chording and with 10 strings, you can do diminished chords and do all this backfill and stuff. That's what I like about the steel. It's just a great instrument.
Yeah, it's absolutely unique sounding. Yeah, you can back up an instrumental or a singer, and you can also take the lead and have a really unique sound that way. And there's some fantastic players that can do both. So,
Well, I had a question, and I read history on it where they said it really got invented in Hawaii, and then it came over to L.A., discovered it, like I was talking with Mike and stuff about how many, there's a lot of steel guitar players in L.A. back in the 50s and 60s and stuff. Do you go with that history thought that it's actually started in Hawaii, or where did it really come about?
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys chime in, but yeah, that's where the steel guitar kind of started there. It was more of a lap steel at that time. It wasn't really with the pedals, but yeah, that was a big musical phenomenon. What would you say, back in the 40s, 30s and 40s even?
Did Leo have anything to do with that?
Leo Fender?
Yeah.
Not in that particular era, no. He was a little bit later and helped with the production of pedal steels.
What was
they had
the
some,
first?
also some lap
Who
steel.
was the first pedal steel guitar out there? Any of you guys know? Gibson?
They would be.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah,
towards the top.
multi-chord, yeah.
Gibson.
Pedals
top.
are on the curve there, yeah.
Are you still playing, Roger?
Not much.
Not much.
I played for about 74 years. I'm taking the night off.
How many years we didn't hear you?
Huh?
How many years?
We'll get your microphone there.
I said I've been playing for about 74 years. I'm going to take a night off.
Well, why do you think this area is so concentrated? I mean, I've seen more steel players in this area than I've seen in, even more so in Texas. You know, I mean, it's a big state, but you've got lots of steel guitar players here.
There's a lot of steel players everywhere, but they were around where country music was popular. And
You think that was the Jubilee?
yes, Jubilee had a lot to do with that, and like KWTO radio had live. I worked there as a live, staff musician. We did live shows practically all day long, and so steel players would go where the country music's being played, and that they come to Branson, a bunch of them, through the years, and but I think they'll follow wherever the work they think the work's at, or where they can get a job. And
Did you play with Slim Wilson?
yes, I worked with Slim. Worked with him KWTO, and then we did a TV show on Channel 3 for 11 years. Slim Wilson show did that, and we used to do a Biederman Furniture show on KYTV, and then first TV shows I ever did was on KTTS television, which was KOLR now, but it was downtown. The studio was upstairs in that big building. I can't remember the name of that building there now. It was downtown, and then they moved out on Division there. But
Well, Bill Ring had a show too.
yep,
That kind of
yep,
stuff.
yeah.
Did you play on the Ozark Jubilee?
Yes, not a lot. I was only working there for a little while when I met Dusty Owen. As like I said a while ago, he came on as a guest and offered me a job, so I left and went to West Virginia, worked out there. But yeah.
You mentioned that steel kind of follows where the country music is. Did you have a chance to work with Speedy West at all?
No, I didn't work with him, but he was a very good friend of mine. And Speedy he's from Stratford, You're right.
He was on
Wesley West, yeah.
Yeah, on so many of the
He recorded
records in California.
everybody, yeah. He worked with Tennessee Ernie for a lot out there. But, yeah, Speedy was great. He was a great player, and he used to come to Branson to come to show a lot, and he had a stroke, and his hand was cold all the time, and he wore a glove on it, and he come to show down there one night, and he said, "Hey, Rod," said, "shake my hand." I took his hand. Boy, he had a good grip, and I said, "Boy, you're doing good." He said, "Yeah, I'll be playing again before long, probably," but he passed away before that happened. But
I don't know if it's still there, but that twin neck Bixby guitar that he used to play, was on display in the Country Music Hall.
Yeah, I don't know. Mike might know. Is that still there?
I don't know. I haven't been there in a long time, so I don't know. I just wanted to give a bit of trivia for all you Looney Tune cartoon fans like me. The first thing you hear is a that's Speedy. Yeah, that's Speedy West.
He recorded. He recorded with everybody.
Oh my goodness, he did. He did.
I have a question. It sounds like y'all were self-taught pretty much. Is that true? And is that the case with most steel guitar players?
Not all of them, but most of them, I'd say.
Sadly,
To an extent.
Yeah, sadly it is because the information just wasn't available. And if I was given one gift, it was my ears, so I could always hear things. I couldn't explain them because I didn't have a teacher to teach me the language of music for a while, so I had to learn that next. But I could hear things. My ears could hear the difference between chords and the movement in the chords and all that, and so it was just learning by ear. And the critical thing about steel guitar is it's a given that the world pretty much accepts how you tune a six-string instrument. It's kind of given that it's EAD, GBE.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody agrees on that. Well, nobody agrees on how a pedal steel guitar should be tuned. We've sort of kind of standardized it, but a lot of people go against that standard. And when my ear would land on a guy that I said, wow, I really love the way he's playing, I want to learn more about him, then I would noodle around on my tuning and not find what I was hearing, only to find out, well, he doesn't tune like I do. And that was a limitation right off the bat that you have to overcome is, okay, what is his tuning? And a lot of times, once you went to that tuning, then what he was doing ended up being real easy, and it just became readily apparent that's how he could do what he did based on his tuning versus my tuning.
Yep.
The phenomenal thing I see about that is sometimes when you look at the board and your strings are that high up and there's no feel there, you guys are basically just kind of touching it or just walking through it. How does that work?
That's the other tricky thing too. It's a fretless. Well, I mean there are frets to guide off of, but you've got the pitch is controlled by the bar.
Yeah.
And that's a very good, difficult skill to master.
Violinists know about not having any frets. Absolutely. You've got to have a decent enough ear to know to go from one interval to another and be in tune with the rest of the band.
Yep.
Where piano players have a key and guitar players have a fret to land on, you've got to get right on top of things.
Maybe I wasn't very good at it. You're going to have to ask Roger about that.
Wayne?
How many models do you manufacture?
Well, we have basically three models. We have an entry-level model, kind of a mid-range professional level model, and then what we would call our top-of-the-line model. And between those models, we have different configurations. Like our top-of-the-line, which we call the Ultra, you can get that in a single neck, a single 10, which is pretty much the standard for pedal steel. We make one with a single 10 that has a pad on it. That kind of evolved from a double neck and somebody not really using the back neck so much, and they took that off and decided they wanted a pad on there instead. So that kind of became another configuration. And then we also make what's called a double neck, a D10. So that's two 10-string necks on the same instrument, tuned to different tunings like Mike was talking about. One is generally the E9th, which is pretty well the standard pedal steel tuning now. That's what you're going to hear most in most country songs, that type of a genre. The back neck is generally tuned to a C6, and that gets a little bit more used for things like Western swing, some jazz and blues. It's got a little bit different sound in the chord voicings.
What material is used? Maybe an ignorant question?
No.
Still wood?
Yes, the different manufacturers have a little bit different way of building their steels. The way we build ours is we have basically a frame made of aluminum, and in that frame sits a wood body that's screwed into the frame. And then there's, the different parts of the rest of the guitar that are attached to the wood body, like the neck and the keys and what we call the changer, which is a little mechanism that actually connects and changes the pitches of the strings and connects underneath the guitar through rods and shafts and things to the pedals. So when you push the pedal, there's a little mechanical linkage that comes around, and this little finger pulls the string, and that changes the pitch of the string.
Has it changed? Has the design changed at all? Has it still been that way for?
It's been pretty well standard. I guess back when the first pedal steels were really being produced. It's not the same as like when the electro harp and those were. It's somewhat similar. Multi-chord.
It's changed since those.
Yeah.
Bigsby Steels was one of the first ones to come out, and they didn't have pullers at the end. They had to push the strings up from the key head.
Oh, okay.
And push the strings up or lower them, so it all evolved. Now it's you got pullers on the end, but now when they first came out, they didn't have. You couldn't push a pedal at a lower string at one string to lower and raise another at the same time. You either raised them both or you lowered them both. So that was something that really evolved when that come where they could lower the strings and raise them at the same time on the same pedal. That was a good deal.
I think that's a unique feature of pedal steel,
Yeah.
that you can have one note stay static and you can raise one note around it and lower another note around it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other instrument that can physically do that. A synthesizer can't really reproduce that either.
Oh,
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Well, I'm wondering on when you say there's a double neck type situation like that. So it's two different tunings, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Right.
It starts
What-
with two different chords.
What's the second one? I know the E flat, but what's the other one?
Well, the ones was what you would call the E ninth. Like I said, that's basically the one. Well, you want to have that?
One's an E chord, based around an E chord, which is in the same register as your six-string guitar, and then it's got some intervals added in and around it, extra intervals, just to give us more of the major scale, make it easier to access the major scale. And then we create a C tuning on the back based on a C chord and add a sixth tone. So you take a C triad, C, E, G, and put an A in there, which is the sixth of the scale. And that changes it into a C sixth tuning.
Wow.
And like he said, it lends itself. The Western swing guys felt that they could duplicate the New Orleans jazz stuff that Bob wanted them to try to emulate. Bob spent some time in New Orleans, heard all the great jazz players down there, took it back, turned it into cowboy music with a New Orleans feel to it, and his steel players, when listening to that type of music, they could hear that sixth interval being played a lot, and so they added that. They created this tuning to try to accomplish what Bob was hearing in his head, and that's where all that started.
I want to ask Roger a political question, okay?
Yep.
You were around all through the Ozark Jubilee. I know you left for a while, but
Yep.
you were a part
Yep.
of all that was going on. You knew Red Foley.
Yep. Worked
You
with him
knew
some.
all the guys, all the people
Yep.
that were there. You worked with them at least once or twice or 20 or 100 times.
Yep.
So the question is, why did the Jubilee fail?
Why did I do what?
Why did the Jubilee ultimately fail?
Why did the Jubilee fail?
Well, I don't know. I think they got taken too much for granted. Thought, we got this going now, it's going to last forever. They were ahead of a lot of people in the live entertainment thing. But they were behind Nashville in the recording end of it. And the recording end of it eventually won out over live, you know. And it was a funny thing. I don't know. It's just it's hard to explain. I don't know the real answer to it myself, but who does, you know? But
I want to ask you one more question.
yeah,
You worked with Slim Wilson on that TV show for about 10 or 11
yeah,
years.
11 years we.
What, without spending a lot of time, what was the basic schedule? Did you do 2 or 3 or 4 shows in one day, or what?
We taped those on Saturdays. We taped them all, and we did two shows a day. We taped 2 shows on Saturdays. And Fred Raines was the arranger and everything, and they were scripted out. The shows were already scripted out when we went in. They handed us what we was going to do. They had, you know, we'd turn in a song list, but it was all taped. And they had, I was telling Mike, we were talking today, Highland Dairy sponsored that show, Slim Show, when it first started, and on KY3. But the station sold right after that, and they had that show scheduled for syndication. But when the station sold, that all fell through. So that was the end of that. But it was a pretty popular show, Slim. Yeah.
Did y'all ever work with Keaton Roberts at all?
I didn't know Caton, but I knew who he was. Yeah, he was. Yeah,
Just wondering.
he mastered his instrument. He was good, really good.
Now, I heard the word jazz come through when you guys were talking about that. I'm surprised there's not more kind of jazz steel guitar players, or are they, and I don't know about them?
Well, there's several, but jazz music on a steel guitar don't sell. Only people that's going to enjoy that's other musicians. And musicians don't buy your records. The general public buys your records. So that's that simple.
Yeah. All right. Are there any more questions? Any questions, folks?
Well, I'll ask Roger, you said at the beginning that country music has kind of left the steel guitar. What's caused that? Why has that changed?
Well, music has changed. Now, don't get me wrong. I love all kinds of music, but my thing is, if it's not country music, don't call it country music. Call it what it is. Now, that's just me.
Rock and roll.
Yeah. But so many bands anymore, and especially a lot of Branson shows, they get away from, they want a utility musician. They don't want to hire a steel player. They want to hire a guy who can play steel, and he can play lead guitar, and he can sing a little bit, and he can play a fiddle maybe on something.
Banjo.
Banjo, yeah. Of all things.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that's just me. That's just my idea. But anyhow, they don't hire just a steel player only. Or say, oh, you play maybe steel and dobro.
Yeah.
So they hire a staff music or just a utility musician. Well, steel kind of takes a back seat then, see?
Yeah.
And it finally starts fading out, but it's here to stay. It's not going to go away.
Yeah.
You know, this is an interesting thing. The Ozark Opry in Osage Beach
Mm-hmm.
Lee Mace.
was
Yep.
almost the start of Branson away.
Yep.
They rarely hired a steel player. And do you know why? Because the steel player always looked down.
Yep.
And they wanted everybody looking up and smiling.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So they rarely used the steel.
yeah. That's a great point. From an entertainment standpoint, folks, we're playing a fretless instrument, and we've kind of got have our eyes on a pretend fretboard so we know where we're at.
Yep.
We're not dumb and we're not dull, and we like to laugh like everybody else. But if we don't watch where we are, we're out of tune. And so a lot of people assume, well, they don't even care what's going on. They act like they're in another world or something.
Herbie Wallace, we were talking about Herbie today, which is one of the greatest steel players ever. But he was playing for this band one time. They wanted him to cover the front of that steel guitar, put a cover on it. And they said, why? And he said, well, we don't want people to know that's a steel. We just think it's a keyboard. He said,
absolutely.
You're kidding me. They wasn't kidding.
Absolutely.
And he worked for Dollywood, and he had to audition for his job every year.
Every year for the same job.
For the same job. And he said, I do what I did last year. They said, you still have to audition for your job.
Yeah.
Which leads me to the question you mentioned, one of the greatest. Who is the greatest, or among the greatest, couple of greatest?
Well,
you never can say who's the greatest, but
everybody asked me, said, who's your favorite steel player? I said anybody that's got one. Because I like them all. And everybody does their own thing, and Buddy Emmons, Herbie Wallace,
Jimmy
Day, yeah, and you could go on and on. But
did Leo Fender play steel?
I don't think he played anything.
he didn't play.
I don't think so, no.
He didn't even play guitar, I don't think, did he?
I don't think he played anything.
No, he kind of got his start in, I believe, making radios.
Repairing radios. He was an electronics guy.
Yeah, he was strictly in the manufacturing aspect of it.
Yeah.
Roger,
Yes.
do you remember the first time you performed in front of people?
I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was probably when I was a kid there, next, maybe for when they had the, was it Centennial maybe?
52.
Yeah, I think that's when it was.
Well, there's a picture of you.
Yeah, you had that picture. Yeah,
And what are you playing, a laptop?
lap steel. Yeah, yeah.
Is that the first one you had?
That wasn't the first one I had, but that was the first one I had. I bought from a guy over at Clever. His name was Bill Nelson, and it was a silver tone, Sears and Roebuck, and I gave him $40 for it. He said, I got to have $40, and I was mowing yards with the push mower, and I said, okay, I'll hang on to it, and I'll get the money. And it had a little metal amp that went with it, and it matched it. So, but I was proud of that. That was my first guitar.
Well, speaking of amplifiers, steel guitars don't work unless you've got it amplified somehow. So when did that all come together? When, did Leo or anybody design it and say, oh, we got to put an amp? Or what was your first amps?
My first amp?
Or what were you using?
Well, that first amp I had was that one I just said, but probably the first new amp I ever bought was a Fender amp. Yeah. Fender made a lot of amps, and everybody was using them at one time practically.
Was that the sound that you were all wanting with the steel guitar? I mean,
well, it wasn't necessarily the sound we wanted. You had to have the amp, and so that's the only amp you could get.
Leo cornered the market.
He had a warehouse full of them things in Bakersfield. Out there, and
so the amplifier, you pretty much got reverb out of it. The steel guitar is pretty much a clean, not distorted sound. Were there any other effects you would use on it that you got through the amplifier?
Well, I didn't for a long time. One of the first amps I ever bought was a Standell. It had a 15-inch JBL speaker in it, and it didn't even have reverb. And I bought a little reverb that was looked about the size of a shoebox. Dan Electro, I think was it was called. And I used that for my reverb. But now
the original tube amps, like the Fender tube amps, did they make a difference in the sound of them?
Yep.
As opposed to the solid state?
Yes.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
A lot of difference.
There's a lot of difference in that.
Yeah.
Of course, years ago, they were all tube, you know, so.
Peavy came along, a guy by the name of Hartley Peavy.
Yep.
And some guys convinced him to do some research on producing an amplifier that would be dedicated to the tonal range of steel guitar. And he did that, and he did it well.
Yep.
And in 74, 75, he brought out the first amp, because Leo never marketed an amp that said this amp's for pedal steel. Never, never. It's a Fender, buy it or don't buy it, you know. And 99% of the guitar players bought them.
Yep.
And the steel players said, well, okay, we'll use it too. But Hartley did some research and did it well, and issued a marketing plan that said, we designed this for you steel players. And that's very unselfish, folks, because please understand, if you design anything to sell to a steel guitar player, you better have a day job, because there's not enough of us to support you. So his amplifiers were doing well, and those of you that played music know that he was the first great affordable PA system that we ever had a chance to use. The other PA systems for weekend warriors were just not that good until Hartley said, hey, try mine. And it went, yeah, this sounds great. And so here we are with this amp that's been built around steel guitar. It was solid state. It did not have the tube sound, but it was good enough. It was good enough, and a lot cheaper than a Fender. And so he's kind of in steel guitar lore forever because of that. And Hartley's still alive. He doesn't have anything to do with the company anymore, but he's still around.
That's like.
What was that? Was that the Nashville?
It was called a Session.
Session 500?
No,
400.
Started out as a 400.
Yep.
Yep, started out as a 400.
I used to be the production manager at Swissville Amphitheater, and it seemed like every country pedal steel player that came through there,
There you go.
had a PV guitar amp.
There you go.
Yep. That's right.
Yep.
That's like the kid told his dad, he said, when I grow up, I want to be a steel player. And he said, well, you can't do both. You know, we're dying breed.
Any more questions?
One comment about the reverb. I think a delay unit was the next thing that came along that a lot of guys adapted, and I still try to use some kind of delay today if I go out and play, mostly on slow songs, but it's a delay is a repeat echo, and reverb is millions of echoes. That's the difference between the two. Reverb is millions of echoes all at once, and a delay is a single or a double or a triple, like that.
Do you remember a song called On the Rebound? Hank Williams, I'm pretty sure, or it might have been Hawkshaw Hawkins. But in any case, I was always told that was the very first On the Rebound, round.
Okay, you're talking about the echo effect. Could have been. Yeah. Could have been. When Sam Phillips turned it on Elvis's voice there at Sun Records, it made a big difference. If you go listen to those early Sun Records and Elvis's voice, it's got what's called slapback on it, and everybody went, wow, what's that?
Echo.
One thing you haven't mentioned is all of you use a volume pedal.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it became a standard equipment.
Right.
Yeah, sure did. Sure did. Another thing we have to master. And it takes some time to do that. It was to add, we found out we could continue, like if we just hit a chord, a whole note chord, and let it sustain over the singer, back behind the singer, kind of like an organ sustains, you know. And the organ never loses its volume. You can just push down the keys and you've got that chord pushing, but no movement. And we found out we could do that by hitting a chord at a volume. And if you master your volume pedal, that chord seems to just stay the same volume the whole time. And in reality, it's fading, but you're giving it more volume, so it just sounds like it's hanging in there.
What I was going to say about volume pedals, I went to see the Bob Wills Texas Playboy Band is going, still. And Jason Roberts used to be at the Sleep at the Wheel. He's head of it. Now, anyhow, the steel player plays one of Leon McCullough's old steels. And he don't use a volume pedal, believe it or not. He does a good job. He plays good. He's really a phenomenal lead guitar player, but he plays steel also, but he don't use a volume pedal, and that's really unusual anymore. You don't see any steel player without a volume pedal, hardly at all, ever. But he plays he stands up, plays Leon's old steel.
Well, all that a volume pedal is a knob.
Yep.
If you all got electric guitars, you've got a volume knob on them. That's a potentiometer that increases and decreases voltage, and that's all a volume pedal was for years. At Ozark, Missouri, we've got one of the best geniuses in the world that's created one of the best volume pedals that's ever been made. Keith Hilton invented the Hilton pedal that has nothing to do with a voltage potentiometer. It's all digital, and it's an incredible pedal right here in the Ozarks. He sells them all over the world, folks. And he is a pedal steel player, a very good steel player. Yeah.
I've got the very first volume pedal I ever owned, ever bought, and it's a Bigsby. And up and down is the volume, but it had a thing that, that I'm talking about, the tone. And
bass treble tone control.
They were built tough. But back then, nobody around here replaced a pot in a pedal for you. And there was nobody to do it. So I'd have to send it back to Paul Bigsby in Downey, California. He'd put a pot in it, get respect to it. And I'd say, "Now I need that, I'm on the road." "Okay, I'll get it to you." But he would do it. And very, very nice of him to do it. I appreciate it. But volume pedals, like Keith, he's talking about Keith builds a good one.
Oh, it's a great pedal.
Yep.
Well, gentlemen, it's been great. I think one of the reasons steel kind of went out of the way because people quit writing love songs and beat your heart down and breakup songs, because there's nothing finer than that steel whining in the background as you're pouring out your heart that she left you hanging in a ditch somewhere.
It got my attention.
There you go.
Absolutely.
And and the song I did, it's because of Mike, it makes the whole song. And you do an old heartfelt song and that steel in there, that just makes it.
Yep.
And I think Nashville forgot about that, the heart. Now it's all about, I don't know what it's about anymore.
Well, one more comment about Nashville. Somehow I got to be 72, and it only took 30 or 40 years for me to get there. I don't know how that happened so quick. There were people in Nashville in the 60s and 70s producing records that we all still love, that we call classic country music. They were great. But, life is life. Guess what happened? They all got old and they all died. Mm-hmm. My buddies in Nashville tell me that they weren't replaced with Nashville people, that L.A. and New York sent new producers.
Yep.
What do you think they had been producing in L.A. and New York all this time? Rock and roll, yeah. And so that's how much of an influence they've had on what we call country music.
Well, a lot of the rock musicians got old and they went to Nashville because they didn't want them in L.A. anymore. So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still snatching you up,
Yeah.
Very famous.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we want to thank you all three for giving us a new insight to what's
it's been a
steel
pleasure.
guitar. And folks, hope you all enjoy it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.